And we are back. What's up, London Reelers? This is Brian Rose. I am here at St. Luke's Church off of Old Street, which was built in 1733. You can see it's got an obelisk design. You can see that behind me, which was quite rare at the time, but it's something that was brought to you by Nicholas Hawksmoor, who was one of the more avant-garde architectural dudes back in the heyday. And if you ever want to get a good steak in London, which is not easy to find, there's actually a restaurant called Hawksmoor that serves them up by the kilo, and it's very, very good stuff. So check that out, and check out the neighborhood of Shoreditch. I like it here a lot. This week we have Bryan the Kid Callen on the show. I spent an hour plus with Bryan on the canals of Venice, California a couple weeks ago, and sounds very exotic, and I guess it was. Bryan is a really interesting guy. You know, he's a stand-up comedian. You've probably seen him on the Rogan Show tons of times. He also has his own show called the Bryan Callen Show, which is an hour, and he sits down with basically the famous people he knows. John Leguizamo. He just sat down with Bruce Buffer and had a great talk with him, and just sat down with Ronda Rousey, Brendan Schaub. And I just really like the way he interviews people. He gives me inspiration. It's one of my go-to podcasts right now. And he also does something called the 10-Minute Podcast, which is him and Will Sasso and Chris D'Elia, and they get on and basically just do a bunch of nonsense for 10 minutes. I highly recommend the Arnold Schwarzenegger first one, where Will Sasso does it's just ridiculous Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, when I listen to it on the tube, people look at me like I'm insane. So I hope you enjoy Bryan. I got a lot out of talking to him. I could have talked to him for hours more. He can go from politics to talk about comedy, to talk about life. You know, he's 46 years old, looking good, becoming a father now to slightly older children, and just, you know, thinking about different things. So very cool to get Bryan's perspective. I think you're really going to enjoy the show. We've just dropped Dr. Kurt von Mensvoort, a guy that talks about a concept called Next Nature this week. Please check him out. He has some real interesting things to say, interesting perspectives when it comes to technology and how it's changing our nature and how we can run towards that as opposed to running away from it. And it's an interesting thought where we can kind of embrace the technological change and maybe see nature for what it really is, which isn't some beautiful thing we see in the zoo all the time. You know, sometimes it's not the best thing to look at. There's decay, there's killing, and all the other things that nature brings with it. So very cool perspective from him. And next week we've got a couple epic episodes. You know, I was just surprised when I sat down with Richard Viller. He's not a doctor. In this country they call them misters. They're surgeons. This guy's ex-SAS, which already makes him a badass. But now he works for a group called Merlin, and he gets dropped into places like Haiti after the earthquake, 24 hours after it happens. And he's got to literally triage the situation, as in find out where there's water, turn a tennis court into a hospital, get in touch with whoever's in charge, which could be a government official or it might not be. And you know, he does this job in such a humble way, and he's so quintessentially British, and makes me proud to also be a British citizen when I meet guys like Richard. So he's very cool. We also met Sarah Jane Pell, and she is an artist researcher, but that's two words you've never heard in the same time. And I wasn't quite sure what to expect from Sarah. She's got some crazy performance live art that she does. She's also a commercial diver, and I was like, I don't know really what's up with this chick. But she sat down, and I couldn't stop staring at her for the first 20 minutes. My jaw almost dropped, and I just shut the fuck up while she told me about her art, her expression, her thoughts on the aquatic world, and why she's a TED Fellow. I asked her about TED as an organization based on some of the things Eddie Huang has said recently, and she dropped some straight science on me. So what a great show. Very cool having her. I had a co-host, James Dawson, who you would have seen in the past. He was one of our early guests on a show called Grape Juice King. So those are coming up. We also next week have Dave Asprey, the bulletproof executive, the guy that takes Provigil and isn't ashamed of it. I really like this guy. I think he's got a cool concept with his bulletproof coffee. We'll be giving away coffee for the best quotes tweeted on that episode. And then after that, I got a guy named Colin Pyle. Him and his brother just basically drove, I think, the perimeter of China and took like 60 days on motorcycles and filmed it. And they've also done India. I think one of them used to be a stock trader and just decided to pack it all in based on something Charlie Sheen said in the movie Wall Street. I think he wanted to ride his motorcycle across China. He says that to Darien when he's trying to pick her up at Gordon Gekko's Hampton's house. Why do I know that? Because I've seen that movie 150 times. And I want to go watch it again right now. So anyways, that's all coming in the next few weeks. It's crazy here. It's lots of fun. We're dropping 2 episodes a week. It's kind of Gangnam style here. There's never enough time and always too much to do, but it's all good. I would like to mention our sponsors by making this show happen. First of all, Alpha Brain is definitely a sponsor because it's in me right now. I drop 1 on most days, 2 on podcast days. It's a nootropic. It's basically ingredients that make your brain function a bit better. And if you think about it, everything you put in your body is going to have some effect on it. You know, whether you don't eat gluten because you think that might help your joints. And the same goes to nootropics and everything else that I eat. I'm a big fan of kale shakes and coconut oil. And anyways, you can get all that stuff from Onnit. And if you go to LondonReal.tv, I got a banner ad there. Click there. You can go to Onnit. You can get everything now. You can get BlendTech blenders. You can get ShroomTech Sport. You can get Hemp Force protein. You can get one of those primal kettlebells with a monkey head on it. I'm a big fan of kettlebells. I train with them every week. I like the swings and the snatches. Sometimes I bruise my arms up, but it's all good. Great cardio, just great everything. So if you want to get involved there, go to Onnit and order up a big order. They've always got new products coming. They've got some kind of a testosterone natural testo booster product coming out that I still haven't tried. So check them out. We are also sponsored by the folks at Audible. Thank you very much to them. I am still recommending the book by Eddie Huang, the guy that walked out on his TED fellowship. And he's got a book called Straight Off the Boat. If you want a free copy of that, go to audibletrial.com/London Real, and you can download a free copy. Listen to that when you're tired of listening to me and you want to get a story up in your dome as opposed to just our running commentary. And that's it, folks. You know where we're at. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. If you want to get involved with the program, be one of the interns that makes this all happen. It's so much fun. They're like Google Hangouts, and we get together, and it's a good old time. Send me an email at info@londonreal.tv. Otherwise, please share this episode on your Facebook, on your Twitter. Tell people about us and all that. Tweet back at me. Also, I will be requesting questions for the Bulletproof Executive. I'm doing it in video form, and so if you do a video reply to my YouTube and put your own mug up there and ask me a video question and I use it, then I'll put you in the episode as well. So please do that. It'll be fun. I got some good questions for Richard Viller for that. And that's it. Enough of me yapping. Now I give you Mr. Bryan the Kid Callen.
London Real, one of the coolest up-and-coming podcasts.
Fucking thank you. I go, what do you mean thank you? I'm just being it's common decency.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. I'm not gonna, if I'm in the wrong, I'm gonna take care of it right away. And if I can, I'll say I can't,
I've been there where it's like, legally I don't have to do this. And I'm like, dude, but like not karmically. I'm just like, there's no need to be a douche.
Yeah, you don't want to be a douche. I don't want somebody looking at me going, that guy's a douche. I don't want that. I don't
Is
like
it that. Or you don't want to know that you're a douche?
It's both. I don't, my religion is I don't want to lie to myself or anybody else. I don't, especially myself, man. I want to, that's a very important thing. That inner compass is not always convenient, but it's essential. I'm not saying you have to be an angel, okay? I'm not talking about, I got a girlfriend and I fooled around with that girl. All right, you're a dude, I get it and all that. But I'm talking about in things about that go to your very core and your very essence. Who are you? What do you want to do? What are you doing here? And if you're lying to yourself about those questions, and if you're doing things for the wrong reasons, one of the advantages of getting older is you start to realize that people that are doing things for the public embrace, status, reputation,
which is
money,
Hollywood.
That's Hollywood. That stuff somehow never really lasts. That fuse burns. Might take 20 years, but it does burn. that's not for me, and never has been, and I don't think for anyone ultimately, fuel for the real fire. I don't think, there's a great saying, Hollywood, and I think you can apply this to broad spectrums of life. Hollywood is a place where a lot of people spend their whole life climbing to the top of this wall, and they get to the top and they don't like the view, or it's the wrong fucking wall. And that's an important thing to keep in mind. You know what you're supposed to do. You know the truth. You know what the answer is. And the rest is procrastination. You don't have to have the exact answers, but there's this sort of like, there's this in between. There's a lack of wisdom on one side of the spectrum, and then there's wisdom on the other side. But then there's something called correct opinion. There's something called a reach for wisdom. There's the intermediary level that most of us are in, which is where you should be pointed. Where you should be reaching. Don't fucking lie to me and tell me that it's back this way.
Have you always known this?
No, I'm just older. I've spent a lot of time thinking about it. I spent a lot of time fretting about it. I spent a lot of time reading people who are a lot smarter than I am about it. And that's kind of why I always tell young people, you got to read philosophy. Not psychology, philosophy. Philosophy, I always talk about this, but I'll talk about it again. Socrates, let's just take the dialogues, Plato's dialogues. Oh, it sounds like such lofty reading. It's the farthest fucking thing from lofty reading. It answers, when you read someone like Socrates and really get into it and take 6 months to really get into it, he answers all the questions that you hear floating around. I think George Bernard Shaw said that Socrates was a philosopher and everybody else was a footnote after that. In a way, he was right. In a way, I am not an intellectual.
Where do you pick up these Socrates readings?
My father. I would recommend to young people to go to audible.com and download the English actors acting out the dialogues, the symposium.
You can download those.
Yes.
Okay.
That's a better way to do it, because
you can listen to it.
You can listen to it. It's a debate. And Socrates never told anybody anything. He just asked questions. And led you to the answer that way. It's called the Socratic method. So I would recommend that. There's something very intimidating about picking up something called Plato's Dialogues. There's something very intimidating about picking up a stodgy book with all those dialogues. You're not going to do it, man. It's going to sit on and you don't have context maybe, or it just seems like lofty language. You got to listen to people speak it into your ear. It's how it was supposed to be.
Okay.
I think.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
This is like a rolling start, man. I like this.
Yeah, I know.
I never Marin does this rolling start, and then he says who it is, and obviously Red Band makes the monkey noises. So
we did a rolling start, man.
So we did a rolling start.
It's called momentum, brother.
It's good, man. I like it. Well, for people that don't know, we are here with Mr. Bryan Callen.
Thank you, sir.
Who, people that don't know, is a comedian and an actor. You might have seen him in such films as The Hangover 1 and 2, Warrior.
Yes,
and countless television appearances like Sex and the City, which impressed my girlfriend.
A lot of TV, man.
And NYPD Blue.
Yep.
That's a lot of TV.
Yeah, Mad TV, original cast member. That's
yeah,
how
Mad
old
TV.
I am.
That's back in the day.
It's crazy.
You are one part of the trio, which is the 10-minute podcast.
Yes, sir.
I want to talk about that later.
Yes.
And you have your own podcast called The Bryan Callen Show.
Yes.
It was Man Talk for a while.
It was Man Thoughts.
Man Thoughts.
And then Joe Rogan's like, dude, what's Man Thoughts? It's got to be Bryan Callen. Call it The Bryan Callen Show, which is such a lame.
I like it.
Yeah.
And Podcast International, you're number one.
Well, yes, I'm the number one.
Number two.
I'm actually, you guys are number two. I've read it. I was rated by Podcast International magazine, and that magazine was rated in the International Magazine of Podcasts as the number one magazine. So
I wrote on our Facebook that we were the number one podcast in London for non-British people, and someone was like, "God, you were award-winning." I was like,
That's
"Oh,
awesome!
geez.
It's so awesome. You can just create your own award show. I'm gonna have an award show at my house and win everything."
Well, welcome to London Real.
Thank you, sir.
We're on location in Venice Beach, California. It doesn't get much better than this.
Yep. On the canals, man.
I know, and you used to live around here. You were telling us about the gang warfare that used to go on around here, which is hard to believe because, I mean, some of these houses.
What happened was it just got gentrified. There's so much money in Venice, so everything got moved out, and everybody who owned a gun got kind of pushed to
Where'd
the
they
side.
go? To Long Beach?
People find a way to go somewhere.
Okay.
A lot of them went to jail. I mean, this has kind of become a. It's funny how they use the word gentrification. It's just another way of saying rich white people.
Yeah.
And Asians. That nowadays. I
remember being here. I worked the summer of '91 here for the Aerospace Corporation, which is just by El Segundo. I was a mechanical engineer, at MIT and the riots that just
You went
happened.
to MIT?
I did, yeah.
And you were a mechanical engineer at
Yeah,
MIT?
Yeah.
We've got to stop everything.
All right, pull the plug.
That's impressive. That's
Wow.
no joke. At MIT, I went to the All New England's wrestling championships at MIT.
Really?
Yeah.
Did they compete?
Took third.
Oh,
Where's the cat?
but the MIT guys didn't compete, did they?
No, it was
No.
just for high school kids from all over the country.
But they did
And
add the gyms there?
Yeah, at MIT.
The very
we would
small
have-
gyms that we had.
Yeah, it was just mats.
Wow.
But that's wild. I mean, where did you grow up?
So San Diego, growing up, my dad's a Caltech guy. He took me to see Caltech, but I mean, Caltech was like, there was like one girl, and everybody else had the glasses on. And
Keep it,
I was like,
nerds.
fuck this, Dad, I'm going. And then I went to Boston, and I saw like, underground. There was a guy singing in the underground, urban environment. I'd never
Yeah.
been to an urban environment. San Diego, it's like
So
LA.
you were a mechanical engineer.
Yeah, so I
I
went
think
there.
Shane
and-
Carwin
and
is a
shows.
mechanical engineer.
Is he? I know he does some work like that,
Yeah,
doesn't he?
I mean,
It's
he's a full-time engineer. It
Yeah.
cracks me up.
Yeah,
at
he does,
6'1", 285, and just...
Yeah, that always
know,
tripped me out. He always kept that job, didn't he?
Yeah,
never-
he still has it.
Still has it.
He picked me up in Vegas. I was messing with him, and he picked me up. He's kind of like one of those guys. He's like a silverback that you can poke just for so long until he'll just look at you and go, "I'm gonna punch you in the face."
You like to poke people, right?
Yeah, especially like Shane.
How
Carwin.
well do you have to know somebody before you start messing with them?
I knew Shane for about 4 hours, right? But he came to my stand-up, and I was just like, hee, because you get giddy around a giant, you're like, hee, let's see if I can poke the bear. And he just picked me up, and Nate Markor was there, and he picked me up and started to squeeze me. And I started tapping, and he just whispered in my ear, he goes, "That's 40%, bro."
That was Nate squeezing you or Shane?
No, that was Shane. I looked at Nate, and I
Okay.
go, "Could he do that to you?" And Nate goes, "If I let him." He's a monster.
He's a big monster, isn't
Yeah,
he?
and yet a really smart engineer.
Okay. Yeah, he was working, where does he work? Colorado or something?
Yeah, he works in Colorado. He's one of those guys. I talk to guys. Shane's one of those guys. I don't know him well, but everybody I talk to knows him, like Brendan Schaub and stuff. He's just a really such a civilian in a way. Like he's married, into his wife, monogamous, doesn't go out and party like the other guys. He's like not a typical fighter.
Just normal.
He's like one of the baddest guys on the planet, and yet he's an engineer, family man, regular guy, and could probably give a bear a fight.
I mean, 2 years ago, it was up in the air who was going to take that heavyweight, and Shane was beating the hell out of people. It was all first round knockout. It was all 30-second knockouts.
It's weird with fighting. I just played volleyball with Jason Mayhem Miller, who's doing really well now.
Is he? Okay,
Yeah, he's
good,
doing really well.
good. I like him.
Jason had some, he just had some issues, and he knows it, but he's doing really well, and I love Jason, and he, just looking at him, and Jason's trying to find, where he's going to go with his next, he's doing stand-up now. He's actually really funny from what I hear, so he's kind of making a transition into, being a showman and stuff, which is what he's great at.
Yeah.
But, it's funny how, as men, we work so hard to be tough in some aspect. And what you realize is that, time has a way of just taking that away from you. And by the way, there is always 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 guys tougher than you are. In my case, there are probably 1 billion people that could beat me up.
They're younger and tougher, and at least they think they're tougher.
Well, you
were that guy when you were 20.
Yeah,
right?
we're made of flesh and bone, man. It's there. I guess what I'm trying to say is that what you realize is that there's no such thing as a tough guy.
Okay.
It's all contextual. I'm really strong compared to my mother. I can lift like chairs with one hand.
So how do you relate that to the UFC?
I'm relating it more to life. This idea that we work so hard to accomplish something and get to the top of something, and in the end, whether it's fame or whether it's that belt or whatever, it's all kind of fleeting. Which brings me back to knowing why you're doing something. You got to know why you're doing something. It's actually not about that end result. There's no end game. It's kind of just the reach has got to be what's fun about it.
Yeah.
I think.
It is. It's hard to keep that in perspective while you're there. And when you're younger, you don't have that concept. I used to be just a out-and-out capitalist. In my 20s, it was just, let's make as much fucking money as possible, or try, or die trying.
Right.
And,
Right.
50 Cent, get rich or die trying.
Right.
And then later, I was just like, why are you doing this? What's the point? And I used to ask all my clients in the city, I'd take them out to dinner, and I would sit them down, and I'd be like, why are you doing this? They'd be like, oh, well, the money. And I'm like, no, why are you doing this? And ultimately, it was something they had to show their dad that they weren't a piece of shit. They wanted to impress their friends
Always,
from school
brother.
that they weren't nerds.
Yeah.
They wanted to, but it was always something below the money, and it was always something really personal.
There are two aspects to a human being, to a man especially. It's very important for men to be to feel like they have left an impression. That's very important for men. I want to leave an impression. Some people do it through their children, other people do it through work. Most of us want to leave a mark, be
Build a
significant,
bridge or
be important.
Okay.
But there are two sides to a man, I think, that, and I always ask people this. You have a desire, but a desire is very different than a need. You may have a desire for that big house, but you have a very different need. Your need is to be appreciated or recognized in your father's eyes, for example, like you just said, or something. And that's what's very important, I think, ultimately to learn. You know, young men start with a desire, and hopefully as you travel down that road, you realize, oh, I had a need to fulfill, and this is what the need is, and you come to terms with that need. And that's what's very important, I think, about, you know, the responsibility of being a human being.
I always try to ask myself, why am I doing something? Like, why is that important? Why? Yeah. I'm just trying to make sure it's for the right reasons.
Well, I think that you need your wounds. You know, I so much of my childhood was the overriding sentiment and emotion was shame. I don't know where it came from, but
Really?
I just felt I was shamed. I think I grew up all over the world in very poor countries, and I was privileged. I was a white kid, you know, with plenty to eat,
Right.
and I felt a great deal of shame at just being lucky enough to have the math fall in my favor. That's
Your parents didn't direct that shame at you. You just
no,
felt that.
I did. It was my sort of, as a boy, and you see somebody in Yemen, for example, with leprosy in some market with no nose or fingers. You know, that's terribly traumatizing to a 9-year-old, a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, because you don't know why you got lucky. You don't even know why all these people, these kids are begging. I remember being in India, Pakistan, and Yemen, the places like that where people would come up, and my father was such a big guy, and these little kids would come up begging for food and money. I went to Africa, I remember, and I had a box lunch, and this was in probably 79 or 80. And I gave the guy a box lunch. I stuck it through the window. Like this is like on a safari. Like they're all surrounding they're just poor villagers.
Right.
And it's like, this is like where you're a white guy in a car. And it's like you're surrounded, and it's such a degrading. I could see how degrading it was for these human beings, and I stuck that lunch box out and gave it to them, like you would do in a safari. It was a terrible. I remember the shame I felt, and they fought over it because they were hungry.
And how old were you watching
I
this?
was probably, I would say, I'd have to ask my mother, but I think I was probably 13.
Okay.
And I had long hair, and they thought I was a girl. I had long blonde hair. They thought I was a girl. They offered me some jewels or some trinket, and I was like, I'm a boy. And I was with this girl, and I was embarrassed.
For people that don't know, I just want to say you were born in the Philippines.
Yes.
And you lived in, among other places, India, Beirut, Pakistan, Greece, Saudi Arabia, because your father, Michael, was working for Citibank at the time, right?
Yeah.
And I remember, love him on your show, by the way. I know it's not just me.
He's great.
It's your top episodes, isn't it?
Yeah,
Your
he's
dad.
awesome. Yeah,
Go
yeah.
figure, right?
He's 72. He's been through it all, and he's such a
But you have-
fair-minded libertarian. He just believes in maximum personal freedom.
But it's like you have Delta Forces, you got, famous actors, Leguizamo comedians, and then your dad tops the numbers.
I know.
Isn't
I know.
Anyways, but
Yeah, he's an amazing guy. He's got a lot to say. He's done a lot of. He's one of my heroes. My father is somebody I admire a great deal because he just continues to grow.
Okay.
He's never stopped growing. That guy is 72.
He's learning Italian or something,
Dude,
or
he's learning Italian. He's unbelievable. He just never stops. He reads books on quantum physics. He's taking a biology class. He's taking a math class. I mean, he never stops. He's obsessed with learning, and what he
he's still
gains.
working too?
He just retired, but and he skis every day. The guy is he's got what's called two things: peace of mind and wisdom.
Okay.
And that's a hard thing to accomplish.
Peace of mind and wisdom.
Peace of mind. And
Wait, they don't go together, or they're just two completely
I think they
separate
do go
accomplishments?
together. It's a very good question, but I think wisdom is when you I think understand what you understand. When you can explain and understand exactly why you stand where you stand.
Yeah.
When you can explain why having principles and ethics and morals is so important.
And he does that so well. What I love listening to your dad is because I used to be a banker, okay, guilty, and I'm probably more on the conservative side.
Sure.
And most, let's be honest, most podcasters, by the definition of them being performers, are probably more on the liberal side. We're going to talk about.
We'll define that in a second.
Yeah, I want to talk more about your politics later. But your dad comes on and he just starts defending, certain things about the banking industry. He starts defining the concept of lobbying and why it exists and why he needs to be, as when he worked at Citibank or wherever, why they have to be in Washington because everyone else is in Washington. And he just breaks it down so well. A lot like my dad says too. That he breaks it down better than I could. And then when I'm listening to him on your podcast, I'm like, go.
That's right. Well, because he's inherently so fair, and it doesn't mean he's right about everything. But if you want to read a really good book, and I recommend it to everybody who listens to your podcast, and I'm one of them. But Lawrence Lessig wrote a book called Republic Lost.
Okay.
And
you mentioned this on your podcast before,
I keep saying it because I think he's really hit the nose on it. It's about campaign finance reform.
Okay.
All that matters is money in politics, man. And it's what corrupts everything, and it corrupts good people. The problem with Washington is it's become an economy of influence, where good people can't do business unless they're corrupt. That's when you got a problem. You're always going to have the sociopaths. They're very rare.
Right.
When an entire incentive structure is now in place, where you can't do anything unless you are inherently corrupt.
Right, which means to get reelected, you're spending 20% of your day on the phone to get funds.
That's
and all
right.
this
That's
crazy.
Right. All that.
30%.
You lean to the green, baby.
Right.
It is not about Republican or Democratic. It's not about solving problems in that respect. It's not about ideology anymore. It's not about a philosophy anymore. And I'm being a little unfair to people who work very hard in Washington.
Right.
But Lessig does a very good job of saying there are a lot of good people and a lot of very good politicians in Washington, good people, ethical people trying to solve problems. The system in place. I talked to Arnold Schwarzenegger about this for 2 hours.
What were his thoughts?
His thoughts were...
He came up with the same thing in California, or is it a different beast in California?
Well, California's got, Sacramento's so entrenched with these dinosaurs,
right,
that on both sides, but especially Democrats, that are just there's such a vested interest in keeping business as usual. And I don't even think they're bad people. I just think that they are dinosaurs. I just think that nobody, and Arnold Schwarzenegger said this, one of the things is, I had very little power to do anything.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And by the way, Republicans and Democrats in Sacramento, I'm not just saying Democrats at all, I'm saying both sides. You take care of your constituents. You take care of the people that butter your bread.
Right.
Okay? And it doesn't matter if it makes sense or not. Otherwise, you're not staying in power. And I sympathize with those people.
Okay.
I don't think I would behave that very differently. I don't want to say that. I don't like being like, well, I'm better than those guys. I've never been in their shoes. What I do know is that as long as there is profit in that kind of behavior, and you have a system that operates that way, you're going to have corruption. Same thing with the federal government. What's happening, which is very encouraging though in this country from what I read, is that the federal government's at a stalemate, very ineffective. State governments are taking over. And they're just taking over their own budgets and balancing their budgets and holding teachers accountable. This stuff, the great thing about this country is things move very quickly. The great thing about this country is that we talk, Americans talk, just like we're doing now.
Yeah.
And it seeps in, man. Ideas seep in. You can't hold down a good idea in this country.
I hope so.
I hope so too, but I think ultimately a good idea wins the day in this country.
I hope so. There's this site that I go to, I mentioned when I was on Rogan Show, called Strat4. You would love this site. Short for strategic forecasting, but these guys are like kind of
write that down.
Strat4, yeah, I'll send you the link.
Okay,
but like a lot of these guys are, ex-CIA guys, and they're economists as well, but they had something that he said, in America we kill our dinosaurs, and he was referring to like General Motors, as opposed to say in Italy or France where they're going to keep these institutions alive. In here he's like, we kill them,
That's
you
right.
go bankrupt, file Chapter 11, equity holders get nothing, restructure, and let's move on. And then 2 years later we see these things happening. So I'd like to think we do that. I hope it happens in politics.
Don't you think that my thing when I hear that is that that's just the truth. Look, I live in such a capitalist world. I'm a stand-up comic. If I don't put butts in the seat, I don't get paid. If I don't make people laugh, I don't get hired. It's just the way it goes, man. So I don't care how much hype, I don't care what kind of shirt I'm wearing, I don't care who my friends are. When I'm on stage for an hour and a half or whatever it might be, I better bring the money or I'm dead. And by the way, I better keep reinventing myself too, because as you develop fans and a following, people are going to, oh, by the way, I'll be in, when is this airing?
This will be out not this Sunday, following Sunday.
When am I going to be? Anyway, it doesn't matter. I don't have to do my dates, but look, go to bryancallen.com and all my tour dates are there. But if I don't do that stuff, if I don't tell people come to my show, I don't get paid, man.
Right.
So I don't. Why do these other people get bailed out? Why in the world does Wall Street? Why does Wall Street have that much money? Why are they able to lobby? God, they compete with each other. But man, when somebody comes in with an idea of how to kind of make them not too big to fail or something like that, they're very effective at exercising influence. They got a lot of money to do so. I mean, it's a whole different subject. But
they also have to get paid too.
They got to get paid.
And it's what have you done for me lately? And you're only as good as your last trade.
That's true.
It's the expression on Wall Street.
That's true. So I just think that we should, the truth is what you're just talking about. Is that the truth of the matter is? Let's just state with the truth. You can pretend you have a product that people want to buy, and the government can bail you out for a while. But if you don't have a product people want to buy, if you don't make a car that I want to buy, if you can't compete with Toyota or whatever, then we'll see you later, bro. We'll see you later. I don't want to hear about it. There's nothing I can do for you, unless you want charity. This is the greatest ever. What was that? The book that was written, The Science of Getting Rich, written in 1900. He said, the poor do not need charity; they need inspiration. A loaf of bread just keeps them miserable for a little longer. It's kind of a harsh thing to say, but in a way, he's right.
Well, it's kind of what we've seen in Africa with all the aid and how the aid just gets either taken by it doesn't help anyone. And oil money in Africa as well doesn't do any favors to anyone.
That's right.
And the countries without the oil money, like Morocco, are the ones that have actually developed some type of educational infrastructure. And the places like Saudi Arabia, where you lived, and Nigeria, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I mean, these places, they just...
It's a small group of people. It's an oligarchy.
Yeah, and live off the wealth and don't develop their natural human resources. But, I mean, Bryan, you have a crazy background. You're not your typical comedian. I don't know what your typical comedian is. I don't know if it's some crazy guy like Marin or someone who has got a complex or whatever. I like Marin, by the way.
Yeah.
But you could have been anything. I mean, you could have been a banker. You could have been a lawyer. You could have been a doctor.
Well, I worked at Lehman Brothers for 2 years out of college.
Really?
I was a history major, and I bullshit my way into Lehman Brothers. My
Is
dad
this when
at the
they
time
were
was
down at the downtown at the
I
Financial
worked
Center?
at 388 Greenwich.
Okay.
And in fact, I worked very close to the World Trade Center. Used to walk by it every day. What the hell is the street? Vesey, I think. Anyway, a little building at Lehman in the back office at the accounts payable and receivable.
Okay. 90s? No.
Yeah.
Okay.
90, I think 3 or something. I don't remember. 90. No, it was before that. It was right out of college. So it must have been 89, 90 or something like that.
Okay.
They kept me around because I was good for morale. I just made the guys laugh. I didn't learn a damn thing.
Okay.
I got good REM sleep in my mortgage-backed security class. But
did you take a mortgage-backed
I
security
sure
class?
did take a mortgage-backed security
At
class.
university?
No, there.
Okay.
After work, they would have us sit in a room, and the guy would lecture us on mortgage-backed securities.
Yeah, that'll put you to sleep.
Dude.
Those things are snoozers.
I just never, what I realized is I respect businessmen. I got friends who are very successful at business, and there's an art to it. I just never understood working for a bank or something and making shareholders richer. I just didn't want my life to be a number at the end of the day. That wasn't interesting to me.
Or is it because you're a performer, and you're a consummate performer, and you like performing?
Probably.
That's probably.
I like making my money off of my imagination.
You do?
Yeah.
I mean, I see your tour schedule, and you're always hitting your dates, and Jesus, it's hard to be on the road, isn't it? Or do you love being on the road?
I like it because it's such a creative time for me. I'm writing all the time.
Okay.
I'm reading all the time.
Okay.
It's a luxury to have so much time. It's incredible that I work 2 hours a night, but the rest of the time I'm free, and I'm in somewhere like a resort in Miami, or I always I'm going to San Antonio tomorrow, and I'll stay on the Riverwalk, and I just spend a lot of time alone thinking, writing, reading, and just immersing myself in the best that's been thought and said,
Okay.
And I think that, at this point now, you should get, as a creator, you should spend more of your time coming up with original thought, and not so much maybe reading. Reading can become a procrastination. Sometimes.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
The responsibility of actually creating, You know, it's a little bit like a guy who's really technically proficient at playing the flamenco guitar, and he plays other people's songs.
Right.
But the guy that comes up with his own songs that other people emulate, that's who you want to be.
Do you think as you get older and get into your 40s and mid-40s that it's now your job to give a little something back?
That's all I think about.
Really?
My job is, and I see a lot of young men that listen and ask me questions and stuff, maybe young women as well, but it seems more young men. My job is to be as inspiring as I can, to try to get people not to make the same mistakes I did, and do the best I can to make the world a better place. I don't have a lot of tools to do that, but I can through this medium, you know.
Through which medium? Comedy? Or
both. Comedy,
acting,
not as much. Comedy, I'm such a jackass, but I'm starting now to talk more about these themes. You know, now my next 1 hour special is really going to be about how men are caught between wanting to be a hero and being terrified that they are cowards. And we're kind of, men are always caught between those two things. We all want to be badasses and hero. It really comes down to being a hero. It really comes down to mastering the fear of death and the shame of having cowardice in our heart. It's why we build armor. Why do you think we fucking kick bags and learn how to choke dudes? That is all because we don't want to be punked. I'm sorry, but it is, man.
I guess that's right.
It's a terrible way of looking at it, but it's fucking true. And
can you weave that kind of serious topic into your comedy hour without
that's
losing
what I'm
your
trying
fans
to do. It seems to be working.
Oh, you can. Okay.
Yeah, it's a celebration of masculinity. The problem is I got a daughter, so you spend all this time trying to be a tough guy, and you do this thing, and that was appalling, by the way, my behavior. I mean, just being on a TV show and just candy everywhere. Speaking of girls and stuff. But I got a daughter now who's 5. I don't want her dating who I used to be. I don't want her dating the bad side of Bryan Callen. I want her to imprint the good side, which means I got to play a character.
What, at home, you mean?
What's that?
What do you mean you have to play a character?
You've got to exercise a great deal of self-control, which is another way of saying having character as an adult. If children are looking at you,
okay,
maybe.
But that
doesn't mean you have to be stodgy. It just means it's just funny. I guess there's a different idea of what masculinity is when you have a child. It becomes
a daughter.
Yeah, it's no longer being able to punch somebody in the face. I think it's more about being nurturing and understanding and nuanced and I guess putting somebody else's happiness far above your own.
Yeah, I know it's a very maturing thing. I have a stepdaughter who's 9, and it's because they see you all the time. They don't see you at your best.
No.
They pick up on everything, and I take her to martial arts every Saturday, and she does jiu-jitsu, and I kick the Thai pads, and I do this really hard cardio workout, and she watches me do it every week. And I think to some extent when I tell her it's bedtime, I think sometimes she's like, all right, Bryan does all these things, and he makes sure he goes, and there's no excuses. We never not go. There's no excuse.
Right.
And I think sometimes it helps me with a little bit of discipline with her. But
Yeah.
then at the same time, I also keep in mind that she's a girl. And then also, girls don't always want to go to jiu-jitsu.
Boy, men and women are so different.
I don't know what I'm trying to say.
No, I know exactly what you're trying to say. What you're trying to say is it's a balancing act. What you're trying to say is a lot of times it's you're figuring it out as you go, and you're just doing your best. And a lot of times it's not about making her do jiu-jitsu. Sometimes it's pulling back and not doing that, and realizing that your concept of what accomplishment and being tough and a man is not very applicable to a girl.
Yeah.
Or to someone's growth, or to some guys.
Yeah.
So
you said you want to make sure young guys don't make some of the same mistakes you made. What mistakes did you make?
Well, I've been lucky enough to have been able to. I got a pretty loud inner voice, but I guess what I mean is I hate seeing someone lying to themselves. I hate seeing someone who's been given the wrong information. I want this kid I knew a long time ago was so clearly gay, and he had a very religious father. And I worked on a film with him, and his body was literally wooden.
Okay.
And I could tell he was hiding this huge secret, and he couldn't tell anybody.
Okay.
And he was just, it was on his body. And I took him to dinner. And I said to him, listen, I'm an older guy, so you can tell me because it doesn't matter, and I'm never going to tell anybody. But I want to know, and let's just take these. I said, is there any truth to maybe the fact that you might be a little bit attracted to men sometimes?
Came right
And he
out.
goes, yeah, and he just looked at me and he trusted me. He trusted me.
Right.
You know, and he said there might be some truth to that. I go, yeah. I go, I know your father is a minister or whatever, and he loves you and he's trying to protect you. I said, but you know who you really are, and you know what the truth is inside your heart. And you can pretend that that doesn't exist, but I'm telling you right now, it's biting you in the ass right now as you speak. And all you can do is express yourself honestly. And if you don't, it's going to manifest itself probably in an unproductive way.
Okay.
I think. I'm not a psychiatrist. I just believe in, listening to that. The truth is not always convenient, man. It's
But isn't everyone lying to themselves on such an extent, and it's obvious to everyone else?
Yeah,
Is that true?
Probably. I mean, I think that, there's my acting teacher used to say, if you want to, in order to face up to who you really are, you got to face up to who you're pretending to be. Krishnamurti said, do we really have to define ourselves along these specific lines? Do we have to define ourselves? We come from a culture where, and I...
In America,
and I had a conversation with Deepak Chopra one time about this.
Okay. How is he? Cool?
He's really cool, an amazing guy. But we were waiting for a table at a restaurant called Ashe, and he was with his whole family. And I started talking. He had a debate on TV with a Muslim cleric, a Christian fundamentalist, a Catholic priest, and he was part of the church of everything is everything, kind of, he's a very understanding guy who just said there isn't this one truth with the capital T, and if you don't go there, you go to hell. And he was arguing with this Christian fundamentalist who was a kind of a crazy guy. But I said, you don't want to define yourself maybe along these strong lines. However, you got to know who you are and where you stand for. And there's another saying that I think that, is very important. And I think it's inscripted on a statue at West Point. A nation defines itself on what it's willing to fight for. I think a man defines himself on what he's willing to fight for.
Yeah.
Ask yourself what you'd be willing to fight and die for. Ask yourself that question. It's a tough question to ask.
Yeah.
And you don't know the answer for sure, but man, you can really get some insights into you. Now, hopefully those lines you are willing to defend are real, and they have been thought out. You have philosophy that you can moor into, that you can rut into when the shit hits the fan. That's why it's important to know where you stand. That's why it's important to read people like Socrates, so you understand what the truth of a situation is. You've got to know what to hit at. Otherwise, you're flailing at branches. You got to be able to get to the root of what the problem is.
Okay, but Generation Y, do they even think about this stuff?
Well, kids don't, and
But
you
they
and I
never should,
are
right?
no longer. And our job now is to say to kids, this is always what happens. You and I are like, well, the kids nowadays,
No,
we're all the
Jesus.
same. Kids,
Yeah.
Generation Y, I know, and they said that about us, and they were right,
Yeah.
and we're right.
What were we? X? No,
Yeah, we're Generation X, Gen Xer. No, maybe we weren't. Maybe I don't know what I was. I was, I graduated in 1985 high school, so I'm 1,000. So, but I think that's the idea. Is our job again is to guide,
Right.
push people in the right direction. Why? Because we've made a lot of mistakes. We've seen a lot of shit.
So you didn't tell me what your mistakes were.
My mistakes. I mean, giving into my appetites probably when I was younger,
Okay.
dating too many girls, chasing too much skirt when I should have been working. But I don't know. I talked to Rogan about it. I am my mistakes.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I had to learn. How else am I going to learn not to be I'm still an idiot.
Yeah. It's hard. Most people don't have that many regrets, and if they do, they're probably so hung up on it that they can't move on and be in the present and move on with their life. I mean,
Yeah, you got to forgive yourself, and you got to, you don't want to be in a box. This is a verb. Life is a fucking verb. As that Zen poet who wrote that poem, life is one continuous mistake.
Jesus.
It's great. It is.
That is a great way of looking at it.
Yeah, but you can keep making maybe fewer mistakes, and I think what matters is that you continue to learn about yourself. I think that's the idea.
I think that is. Will you ever do speaking tours, or is that something that's just?
I don't
not
think
something you
I
would
have.
do?
I don't. You know.
Or is comedy your way of doing that, getting through the back door?
Comedy is my way of doing it. I don't have that high an opinion of myself. I think there are a lot of people that have more to say. I'm just, I remember a lot of stuff. I read a lot, so I'm just, But there are people that should be on a stage speaking seriously.
But you are going to weave some serious themes into your next hour of the show. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's cool.
And I do it with my podcast. Look, I got my podcast and I got the 10-minute podcast.
Yeah, let's talk about those.
Total buffoonery.
Oh, Jesus, they're like night and day, those two podcasts.
I mean, it's 3 11-year-olds in a treehouse, as my buddy said. It's
So the 10-minute podcast has been going on for a year?
Yeah, we've got 120 episodes, I think.
Okay, and it actually got a real award.
Yeah. We were rated in 2012 as in the top 3 best comedy podcasts on iTunes.
That's big. You guys crack me up. Even when you talk about the award, they're like, "Yeah, we're on the top iTunes," and it's like, "But wait a second, if you're listening, then you already know that. You don't care.
You already know that."
It's pretty funny and a crazy concept. But it could have not worked too. But you guys seem to make it work.
Well, Will Sasso to me is.
Will's pretty.
Will in a lot of ways is the most talented person I've ever met in my life.
I heard you say that on Rogan's show.
I've never seen anybody do what he can do.
Really, that's a bold statement because you met a lot of different people.
We were talking, Will and I, yesterday. Jay Moore is incredibly funny. I think Jay Moore, in a lot of ways, is another example of prodigiously talented guy.
Okay. Did you have him on your
Yes, he's a friend of mine.
Yeah.
But Jay Moore and Jamie Foxx are two very... I mean, Jamie Foxx is just... He does it all.
He's so versatile.
Music, piano, sings. I mean, and
acts very well.
Looks great, acts great. He's a stud.
Looks great, too. You put that on one of his talents.
He's rocked out of his mind. He takes his shirt off. You're like, what the fuck is this? What are you kidding me? He's like, I met him. I hung out with him.
He's probably ripped.
He's rocked.
In any given Sunday, he was just in like crazy ripped up shape.
Oh, yeah.
And what is he? Is mid-40s? Is he all right?
I'm 42. How Jamie is. Jamie must be...
He's got to be 40
yeah, he's
something.
probably 40-something. Yeah.
Okay.
Just turned. I don't know.
His prime.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're saying he's very, very talented, but you put Will up there as far as multi-talented?
I think Will is prodigious. I think he's incredible.
Okay. Acting, just comedy, creativity.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in this business a long time. When you got a guy who does things and you look at him and go, I don't know how you do that. Okay. That's saying something. I don't do that with a lot of people.
Okay.
I do that with Daniel Day-Lewis. I do that with, in some ways with Jay Moore, and I do that with, but certainly with Jamie Foxx and with Will.
Okay. So whose idea was it, and what happened, and did you all know each other?
Will said Chris D'Elia, who's another hilarious son of a bitch.
I didn't know.
Just raw funny.
It's on the podcast. I didn't know.
Yeah, he's on that show. Whitney. He's on it. Oh, his stand-up is he crushes.
Okay.
He fucking. I mean.
Really.
Oh my God! Don't try to follow him. He's one of the few guys I can't follow. I mean, I get him. All the girls are like, "Where's my boyfriend? I want him back." Who's this guy? But he's just. I've never seen a stand-up in my life make that kind of progress that quickly.
Okay.
Ever in my life.
And he's been doing it just a few years?
Oh, he's now 6 years or something. But he
did comedy TV
monster
before he did the stand-up.
A little bit, but now he's on that show Whitney.
We don't get it in the UK that I know of. So.
Yeah. And he's about to do a new show, I think, called Undateable.
Okay.
But he's just painfully funny as well. And we were joking around one day on the street, as we always do, just 3 guys playing grab ass on the street, acting like complete idiots. And
I can see you doing that a lot.
Oh, all I do. And Sasso, because I'm all serious and stuff, and really what we're doing is like fake fighting and acting like complete morons. We're on TMZ, like Chris is kissing me. I'm like, stop kissing my shoulder, But Will called me and said, dude, we should do a podcast. And I was like, well, all right. And he goes, like, what? And he goes, and I had these ideas, and we'll get guests. He goes, no, I think we should just do a 10-minute podcast. It's a round number. And I was like, a 10-minute podcast? He goes, yeah, just 10 minutes. And that was it, man. And we had a following, man. I get off stage in Canada or anywhere, and it's always like representing. Always people representing,
They know you more from that than the Bryan Callen show.
I don't know.
You don't know. They're so different. Like the classic 10-minute podcast, if you haven't watched it, you have to listen to the Arnold Schwarzenegger one. The first one, it's completely off the charts. I mean, like, I'm on the tube in London, and I mean, people are looking at me because I was just like, I'm laughing my ass off.
Stupid, I know.
And it's just like funny to say. And some of them are so nonsensical. I gotta turn this off. Like,
Yeah.
insulting each other.
It's so retarded.
It's like, okay, what's this?
We did one yesterday. It was so ridiculous. All I'm going to say is Chris explodes. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
It's so stupid.
But yeah, so you guys get together and you film a few. I mean, you record a few of those back to back,
Yeah.
and then kind of let them out.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. It's a lot of fun, and I think a lot of people got to know the three of you just because of that, right?
Yep.
And then you got your own show, which is completely opposite. It's serious. It's an hour. You keep it usually to an hour. Sometimes it goes over a little
Just an hour,
bit,
yeah.
And you sit
I
down
just
with
try
people.
to I just try to interview people that I'm going to learn something from, or I find inspiring, or just are different. I mean, I'm interviewing pretty soon a kindergarten teacher who's been a kindergarten teacher for 18 years, and he's a rock star. He's a rock star kindergarten teacher in a kindergarten you can't get into. It's like, like all the
So
really
he's considered like one of the best.
Yeah, he got up and made it and talked at this school, and all the women were like, oh.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, he's a real badass. His name is Kurt Schwagel or something like that.
You know, people have called London Real. They call this like a curator, and it was a really weird word to hear at first. Yeah, and they're like, "You're a curator." And then two different people told me in 2 separate weeks, and I was like, interesting. I was like, so it means that they know they can come to London Real hopefully twice a week and find content that if they try to look on YouTube, there's so much garbage out there.
Yeah.
And you're the same, because I know when you pick a guest, you're going to pick someone who you think is irrelevant.
Yeah.
So it's going to be that Delta Force guy, or it's going to be Leguizamo, or it's going to be a kindergarten teacher.
Yeah.
And if you tell me that this guy is worth listening to an hour, then I'll be like, okay, I trust Bryan, then I'll listen. And so I think that's what some of these things are coming.
That's good. Yeah, I guess that my when you listen, you're creating a guarantee in a way.
It's like a filter.
Yeah.
That you're legit. And
I'm going to find good people, because there are a lot of people I don't put on. There are a lot of actors that
probably famous people you don't want.
Yeah, I'm not interested in what certain actors have to say. I don't find them that interesting. I know them. I don't think it's good for ratings, or it's a good prestigious thing. But what are you going to tell me? I know what you do, and I know how you spend your day, and I've talked to you. So you might kill me here. It might be boring.
I mean, it's weird because we're in different circles, people don't know me from Adam. I just started off just doing the show. So for me, it's like sometimes I get some crazy people that want to be on. Guys are expert in out of body experiences, and I'm just like, Jesus, man, I can't put this guy on because my audience is going to say, "Come on, Bryan."
That's right.
So,
that's exactly right, dude. It's funny you said I have some guy who's one of those guys, and he's dying to be on the podcast. And I'm like, dude, I'm not putting you on so you can tell me about a bunch of fake experiences you've had and about the 18th dimension, you fucking weirdo, because I'm just going to get annoyed. Maybe if you start talking and I punch you in the face, it'd be a good fucking podcast.
Yeah. So what is? I mean, what do you want the Bryan Callen Show to be? In the future. I mean, I didn't want to say what's your mandate for, but what is it in your mind? What do you want it to be? I know you can easily say these are people I find interesting.
I think that I would ultimately, and I might do. I'm doing something for a certain. I might do something like a talk show like this, but I want to give voice to people I think are important and make a difference. That's what I want. I want to do something for somebody. There are a lot of people out there with a lot to say.
Yeah.
And that are maybe not even making a difference, but they've lived a life, they've done something that I think is important, significant, and that people can learn from. And those are the kind of people I like to put on my podcast. The people that make me go, or that inspire me, or that are a mystery to me. Okay. And it can be a porn star.
Yeah, it
could be a porn director who I'm putting on. This guy, Stoney Curtis, who's a huge porn director and a really colorful guy.
You had a porn director on earlier, didn't you? And a porn star.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And so that's the kind of stuff I find interesting. I want to know about that world. I want to know about the under tapestry of that world. I want to know who you are and how you got into this world. Okay. Sometimes it's a sad story, other times it's a boring story, but I want to know about it.
You also want to highlight people that would normally not get any exposure?
That's probably,
or not.
Yes, if they are worthy of exposure.
Okay.
Exposure meaning they have something to say that other people can glean from, that they can learn from. Yeah.
Okay. So like the kindergarten teacher.
Yeah. Actually. I want to know about why this guy he was a D1 baseball player.
Okay.
Good-looking guy. Why he chose to be a kindergarten teacher. Why he didn't leave. I understand why you fall into it, but he stayed there for a long time. Right. He's obviously getting something out of it, and he does a very good job.
Okay.
So there's an art to it. Whether you know it or not, we need good kindergarten teachers. We need them.
No, we do. No, I think
we need them as badly as we need anything else. And we can probably learn something about what he's learned, how to reach children.
Yeah.
The psychology of a child. What are his points of view on education, on what a parent's role should be, on what a parent's role shouldn't be,
Well, and your daughter's about to go into kindergarten.
That's
too,
right.
So
That's
even
right.
more relevant.
That's right.
What was Leguizamo like? I actually saw his one-man show in New York City in like '97.
Yeah.
I was flying in from London. I took my girlfriend to it, and we had like front row seats, and I fucking watched him bare his soul for 2 hours. I think it was called The Pest.
Look, John
He was doing
is
impressions of his dad yelling at him.
beautiful, man.
I mean, this is
Leguizamo still is a guy. He's got a lot of money. He's done very well. Leguizamo still got. I think what drives John is his heart. He is fucking outraged. He's outraged at the injustices in the world. He doesn't know how to articulate it sometimes.
More so as he's gotten older.
Oh yeah, John's a guy who's reading. He's reading Ulysses by James Joyce, and I said to him, "It's like, dude, why are you reading Ulysses? Don't read it. You can't read it. Nobody can read Ulysses. I'm reading it, and John will read it. John will fight through it, man. John is a fighter. John is a guy who will. That's an inspiring dude. John, he's so passionate now. Still, everything is hard. Everything is tough. Everything is motherfucker. He's like, man, I want to be intellectual. Like, what the fuck? How do you read? What are you reading? He'll read it all. Like, he's hungry. Okay. That guy's got the ribs on him, man. He's got. You can see his backbone. He is the definition of what I love about a human being.
Okay.
Like, he's just like this guy who just will not. He just wants to know everything. And what drives him is this deep sense of injustice.
Okay.
Growing up Puerto Rican and Colombian, no money, in New York.
Yeah, I didn't know that exact background.
Man, he's the first Latin guy to get up on stage and go, yo, everybody, this is us. That guy who you think is just walking around, man, I got a loud voice. I can dance. I got passion. I saw all his one-man shows. He's the reason I chose to do stand-up comedy.
Wow. Okay.
John Leguizamo, that's why working with him on that movie, man. I mean, that dude is the reason. He's one of my heroes, one of my inspirations.
Okay.
It's a beautiful thing when you're an actor and you're in a scene with him,
Okay.
When you're doing scenes with him and Lawrence Fishburne and Kevin Hart, it's pretty cool.
That's a lot of power.
I just did this movie, yeah.
What was that movie? What is that?
Ride Along.
Okay, Ride Along.
Yeah, Ice Cube. It's fun.
You get to meet like all these powerful guys. I know you said you had dinner with Fishburne and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and on these movie sets, and then everyone goes their separate ways. I've heard this about Hollywood, and it rips you, and then like you don't get to see each other again, or you send them that email, and is it that relationship over?
Yeah, it's a fraternity. You when you see people, you give them a hug, and you love them. It's rare that I meet actors or I work with actors, and I make fun of acting and I make fun of myself, but it's rare that I meet guys like that, like Ice Cube or Lawrence Fishburne or Kevin Hart, those guys, then I don't love them. They're really hard not to love, man. Right. They're really hard not to love. Right. There's a reason we've been watching those dudes for years. Yeah. They are just, man, they're more than charismatic. I think, again, that's another example of, Fishburne is, I've never seen anybody maybe with that kind of human intelligence.
Really?
I've never seen anybody who can take care of fans the way he does without letting them get a piece of him.
Really? He has been there and done that.
Yeah, he's been famous since he was 16 years old, man.
He was, but then we forget, it was John Singleton that put him in Boys in the Hood. Before that, his acting career was just in the toilet, and he was doing these just random black man roles on the random TV series. I think John Singleton said, "I'm going to make."
He's been around, man. He was always doing stage, though. He
was doing stage.
Yeah, Othello, whatever. He was always on. That guy's from New York, man. He's a real thespian, a real actor.
Is it weird, to have that much contact with those guys and hang out and then go your separate ways?
Not anymore.
That you're used to that Hollywood thing.
Well, we're all adults now.
Okay.
We're all men.
Okay, fair
no
enough.
difference. Somebody has a bigger bank account. It doesn't matter at a dinner table.
Yeah,
what matters is if you can connect. Somebody's got status and prestige. We all know that goes away. You're famous 1 year, and 3 years later, people don't even know who you are. Ask a 20-year-old who Paul Newman is. Go ahead. See the answer. Ask him who Led Zeppelin is. It changes. It changes, and people who've been in the game a long time, I think, know that.
Okay. Who do you admire from an acting perspective and then from a comedy perspective? I mean, not only who do you aspire to be, that I want to know, but also who do you might admire?
Acting-wise, I admire Daniel Day-Lewis, Christian Bale, Meryl Streep. Those are the actors I think that are.
Because they consistently deliver and push themselves.
Yeah, they're just they're so hardworking, man. They're so hardworking.
Yeah.
They just David O. Russell as a director, I think, is amazing. I mean, these are people that just.
Did you see Lincoln? Were you super impressed with Lincoln?
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
Yet. I haven't seen it yet. I have it at home. I have the screener. I just got this big TV, so I'm going to watch it on there. But
okay. Are you holding off?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll have my private moment with Daniel Day. But it sounds so.
It took me a while to get into it. It starts off really slow, and then you understand. But it's I mean, I know you love politics. Fascinating what was going on back then.
Yeah.
You probably know more about it. I didn't know all the details, and
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I think that when you put a human face on history, you realize it's just a lot of times just people with ideas, and they don't know if they're going to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's profiles and courage.
Well, and it's politics too, so it's
politics. But Lincoln was a man of ideas. He had courage. It was tough for him. A lot of decisions were very tough. He was alone in a lot of decisions. That's what's hard.
Yeah.
And the people that we read about and that we admire, that we make movies about, are usually those kinds of people that stood alone. That again knew what the truth was, and despite even their own lives, chose to go that way. Look at Gandhi and Martin Luther King and those kind of people. So,
what about acting-wise for you? How is your relationship with acting? I know that might sound strange.
It's a tough one, brother. I have a love-hate.
I can tell.
I'm going to audition for a great role for Eastbound and Down.
Oh yeah?
Yeah,
wow.
I worked really hard on it, but it's I love stand-up, but I don't know. I have a love-hate relationship for the waiting around and the fact that I haven't done what I wanted to do too. I wanted to be I wanted to be Robert De Niro or something. But I'm just not. I'm not that deep. I'm fucking a jackass. I just I like having fun. I'm not that disciplined on the set. It comes out of how much you love it. I think Daniel Day-Lewis, Meryl Streep love it so much.
Do they love it, or are they just obsessed with it?
Both.
They must
look at De Niro. He's obsessed. Al Pacino is. I know people. I did a movie with his girlfriend. His life is acting.
Okay.
Walks around thinking about it all day. Right.
What is the definition of success for you personally, though, with acting? A feature film where you are the man?
That's the problem. That's the problem. Is that I don't think that I'm not. I've seen success. I've felt a little of it, but I've seen it in friends of mine, and it's so fleeting.
Right.
That you when you say I made it, you made it for now.
Yeah.
And what do you mean made it? You get recognized in airports. People want to take pictures with you. You won an Oscar. Yeah, but I know a lot of people that have won Oscars. You see it. They haven't worked in 10 years.
Right. Yeah.
That's the problem with the business. It's not linear. So. I don't know what the end game is with acting. I know that I love going and doing. Sometimes I like the camaraderie of the atmosphere more than the actual acting.
Okay.
I think I like acting because I want to see if I can make it in this impossible business.
Okay. And you like pushing yourself for a skill set that you haven't mastered, probably.
Yeah, acting is never easy, man.
Okay.
Acting is always so nuanced, and you cannot work hard enough at it. You can't work hard enough at it.
Okay.
See, there are a lot of guys that can act and they can do lines. They can say lines with conversational reality.
Right.
But let's see a character.
Right.
Come up with a memorable character.
Right. No, I watched Silver Linings Playbook, and then my girlfriend watched it, and she was like, eh. And I was just like, man, I was just watching, Bradley Cooper and that girl, and I was like, they sold me on their characters. It wasn't lines.
Bradley is a good friend of mine.
The timing, it was like, damn, I just bought it.
Bradley's a really good friend of mine, and I've known Bradley way before he was famous. And
Okay.
Bradley was always in love with acting.
Okay.
And Bradley was obsessed with the craft of acting. That's what drives that guy. It's not the fame is nice and all, but he modeled that character after a friend of ours.
Okay.
And he's so detailed and nuanced.
Yeah.
He loves every detail. I said to him, I talked to him after the movie, I said, dude, you grew the De Niro beard from the Deer Hunter. You had a little outline. He goes, dude, that's exactly what I did. It was like my homage. I can't believe you picked up on it. I go, yeah, I picked up. Come on, man. I could see it. You grew that beard, you
funny.
fucking animal. And that's the kind of shit he does. He'll just do a little thing for himself. And if you pick up on it, awesome. And by the way, you do a movie with Bradley Cooper, he's going to make you better.
Right.
He's a team player. He's watching the monitor and giving you suggestions that work.
Right. Which is rare in the business?
Hell yeah. If you watch The Hangover when I get shot, I come out and I've been just taking a piss, I'm like redoing my belt. Yeah. That was him. He goes, take your belt off. Just maybe he's giving me all kinds of ideas.
Wow. Okay.
So I love that guy. I mean, he deserves everything he's got. He works so fucking hard. He helped me with an audition one time, and we'd been working on it for an hour, and I go, yeah, I don't want to take up your time. And he goes, dude, I'll sit here all afternoon until we get this shit.
Those blue eyes.
Yeah. He's so intense. He's so fucking intense. The one thing I will say, I know Renee Zellweger, I know a lot of, know some actors, and one thing I'll say about actors who are really successful, they are very disciplined people.
Okay.
They're shockingly, astonishingly disciplined.
Okay. Is that true with any successful person? Fighter?
I don't know. I would imagine.
Okay.
I would imagine, self-mastery.
Do you want to be stopped at airports? I mean, do you want that?
Yeah,
kind
I love
of fame?
it. I love
you
attention. I mean, not really, but I love attention. I think it's fun. I like the attention because I like watching people get excited.
Okay.
I like making somebody's day. I like when somebody, can I get a picture with you? And I love that shit. I love it. I never get tired. Every time I come off stage, I take pictures with everybody.
Okay.
It's my favorite thing. It's tiring sometimes, but
yeah.
But it's awesome. It's like it's such a privilege. Oh, I love you. I want to take a picture. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no problem. It doesn't bother me.
Okay. So would you like to be more famous?
Yeah, because I want a bigger house. It's such a sad thing to say. I want a bigger fucking house. I drive a Prius. I don't care about cars.
You drive a Prius by choice.
I want a bigger house with a yard, and maybe I want a wall.
Is that why you didn't park nearby? Because you didn't want me to see your Prius?
Yeah, that's what it was. I don't give a shit about my car. Fucking care less. I think I'm going to lease the Avalon hybrid.
So that was the acting thing. Comedy. Who do you admire and who do you aspire to be?
I don't think anybody, just myself. I think that comedy is something that I like trying to stay original with. I think I'm good at it. And
okay.
I think I'm way better than I am at anything else. And I think that I'm proud of the fact that I've been able to be somewhat original with comedy. I mean, somebody said to me the other day, the shit you're doing right now, dude, is so alternative. Nobody's doing that. Well, good. That's a great compliment. That's what I'm aiming for. So I don't have a hero for comedy. I run by my own. I don't watch comedy. I love my friends. I love Doug Davidoff and Steve Byrne and Brett Ernst and guys and Chris D'Elia and those guys and Al Madrigal and those are the guys. My contemporaries are amazing. Those are the guys I think that make me. Sebastian, these guys kill me. They make me laugh so hard. But it doesn't mean I want to be like them.
Okay. Do you have like a metric, like I want to sell out the O2 Arena in London?
Yes. I want to sell out. I love to sell out. I just want to sell out theaters because it's so much money. It's just more money for less effort. That's all.
Okay. So you would like to be I
want to make $100,000 an episode, a fucking show.
A show. Okay. So the more the merrier.
Yeah. So I can just spend it on people.
I love this. Is honesty.
Yeah.
Spend it on people. You're supposed to spend it in Vegas.
Yeah, Vegas hookers and all that. I don't do blow, and I'm not into hookers. I feel bad for them, so I don't know what I would do. Now, cars.
Now you surround yourself by people who smoke a lot of weed, but you don't. Typically.
Yeah, it doesn't work with me as well.
Okay.
I smoke weed, but I don't have time. Okay. I smoked weed with Rogan the other day. I was high for 7 hours. It's like, what you put in this shit? He's like, that's how we roll, son. I go, I gotta drive, bro. I'm stuck at a fucking Chipotle. I keep ordering burritos. I think my stomach's gonna explode.
I had Howard Marks in my studio a week ago. He's the famous international cannabis smuggler that was, he was an MI6 agent. He was working with the IRA.
Wow.
He evaded the law for like 2 decades. He had 43 passports, and he ended up spending 7 years in the federal penitentiary. And he's just known. He's a Welsh guy. And he's known for always smoking, and like he lights up in my house and passes it to me, and I'm just like, I just got shit to do today.
You're too busy.
I gotta edit this thing. If I touch that, I'm fucked for 4 hours.
That's how I don't have the constitution. I can't drink in the afternoon.
Yeah, same with me.
I'm fucked. I gotta take a nap. I'll be out.
I see people on vacation. They had a glass of wine at lunch, and I'm like, If I do that, that's my day.
I'm done, bro. I'm of Mediterranean extraction. I can't break that shit down.
What's California like? Because, like, I mean, we're in Venice. There's medical marijuana everywhere.
Yeah.
Do you think? Tell me if I'm wrong. And do you think marijuana has gotten to be so accepted and everyone does it so much? Is there almost like peer pressure for everyone to smoke up in this?
I don't know,
city?
man. I think that you can be pretty brain dead in California, and there's just such good weed. I think that people just etch out a life. I think sometimes people come to California and just etch out a lifestyle around weed. I think the people that smoke weed would be smoking weed anywhere, but they come to the sun and it's just they can find a community. And some people just love weed.
Yeah.
And some people, their first love is weed. You're not going to have much of a resume at 40, but and you own a skateboard. But listen, if that's how you want to roll, and there are a lot of people that do it their whole life and they're perfectly happy. If that's what you want, I'm just too type A personality, man. I'm too.
Okay. What, want to get shit done,
I want to learn things. I want my mind clear. I can't.
Okay.
Some people do better with weed, but I don't have the chemistry.
Joe writes on it, and some people say they
Joe's incredible. Joe's the weed's been the best thing that ever happened to Joe.
Oh, because you knew him before.
Oh fuck, I knew Joe before, and he was the most intense human being.
Just super, too intense.
He's just so aggro and just such a he's just amazing that way. He's just like the most intense human being on the planet.
Okay.
Like he'd be like, Joe, when you don't work out, he'd be like, I've never not worked out. Next question. But weed is really. I think Joe. said it gave him peace of mind. I think.
Okay,
weed
calmed
is
him
really. Yeah.
in.
Well, but Joe's so intense that he's intense on weed. Joe can be high as fuck and be. You're not getting anything by him. He's just a. He's a fishing net. He catches everything. Just
Yeah, Red Band said that when we went to the show, and he was smoking, and he's like, yes, sometimes it's too much when I'm smoking, and sometimes even Joe's too much for me.
Dude, that guy holds himself to such a high standard.
Joe does.
Yeah, but he's such a lover. He's got such a big heart.
So what's it like being Joe Rogan's best friend?
It's great. I just known him so long. He's like my brother,
You knew him from Mad TV days, or before?
Yeah, I met him on Mad TV,
which is 95.
17 years ago. Yeah, something crazy.
Okay.
18 years ago. Joe's always been, he's inspiring to me, but he's also a guy who I can go to when I need the truth.
Right.
A dude called me after my special, and he goes, you're a great comic. You could be greatness. You could be great. Be one of the best of all time. But you gotta start holding yourself to a higher standard. He told me to read a book called Turning Pro by Stephen Pressfield, which I did.
Great book.
But he's a guy who just, he just wants the best for his friends. He wants his friends to be as great as they can be. He's not threatened by your success.
That's big, and it's big to be able to tell you that. I heard that. I heard that you mentioned he said that.
Yeah, he's been so supportive of my podcast, of me. He wants me to come on the road with him. Like I did the road with him in Vegas, and I guess he got a lot of tweets that I did a really good job. He got a lot of compliments. And he loves that. He's like, when can you do it again? It's not threatened by it. He wants a great show.
Yeah.
And I love that about the guy.
And that's rare in this town, or
it's just that Joe is all he and I call it the pesky truth.
Okay.
If we're lying to each other, it'll last for 2 seconds. And we're like, what? And he's like, ah. The other day, it's like somebody's like, do you do yoga? I go, I do yoga every single day. And Joe was like, you don't fucking do yoga every day. I'm like, would you shut the fuck up? Yes, I do. Might be 5 minutes, but I do it. He's always calling me out.
He's always calling you on your bullshit.
It's like, dude, can you let me lie a little bit? What the fuck do you have to ruin my parade for?
Sometimes you're dropping like the history and then the Polish, and he's like, no, they didn't. And
Exactly.
Leave me alone.
He's like, shut up. You don't have to know everything, So there it is.
All right. What was it like hunting with him and Ronell?
All I'm gonna say is you can watch
When's that on?
Meat Eater, which is on the Sportsman channel or the Outdoor channel, and it's on April 28th. We're going to tweet and do a podcast April 15th about it. Me and Steve and Steve Ronell and Joe.
Apparently you were a one-man show the whole time.
Dude, I had such a blast.
Yeah,
Joe's my best audience. I was just making them laugh the whole time.
And the other guys on the set.
Apparently I was making them laugh. That's what I'm told. That's what it
good
sounded
at.
like.
So I downloaded the first 5 Meat Eaters, which are the only ones I can find on the web. I think he might have did 5 the first season, I think. And I'm watching them. I love them.
It's a great show.
And now I want to go hunting. It's just like,
shot well.
Jesus.
Come with us, man. We're going. We're going to go to Alaska or something. It's great. I don't know what we did. Ronell will tell us the next thing we're going to go to.
It's contagious.
Oh, dude, it's greatness. I won't shoot a bear though. No,
You won't?
Joe was like, "Let's go now." I'm not shooting a bear. I like bears. I'll shoot anything with hooves that I'm going to eat. I won't eat a bear.
Ornella shot the black bear in the one.
Yeah, he salted and brined and smoked a huge piece of bear meat for us, but left it in New York.
Oh yeah, he was supposed to bring it to the podcast.
Yeah,
right.
but I mean, I don't want to kill a bear. I like bears.
Fair enough.
I ain't going to be seen shooting a bear on
He shot that black bear, and it I kind of rolled with it. But then he was talking about how he had to cook it because it's got trichinosis or whatever.
Yeah, all that. They got parasites.
Jesus.
It's not meant to eat. I'll eat a fucking deer, though, man. That's my favorite. Oh, I love venison.
Which you did eat, and you shot and killed.
Yeah, got
Do you
some,
recommend
still got
that?
some in the freezer.
I'm trying to get a buddy of mine to go to Slovakia.
Only if you love deer meat. I mean, I love deer meat. I
mean, and the whole concept of hunting and all that. I mean,
I like it because it gives you, it gives you a lot more respect for how hard it is to get your food. We farm now and we use cows and stuff, which is, I don't think, nearly as humane as shooting a deer with a high-powered rifle.
You guys got some heat for this hunting thing?
No,
Did you get heat with your fans?
hunting is a part of American
Joe
life.
released that YouTube clip of the deer getting shot in the head with like a hollow point rifle. Did you see that footage?
I did not.
Oh jeez, he tweeted it like 2
came
weeks
off.
ago. It was these guys doing headshots for deer because that was the most humane shot. I know Ranella likes the lung shot. But it shows it in slow motion, and it is one of the most disturbing things. Like the whole face explodes and the eyes pop out. Yeah, it's
that's
really...
what happens to a human being. It's pretty awful. Violence is a terrible thing.
In slow motion.
Life eats life. If you want to be a vegan, go ahead. I just got to eat meat. I can't do it. So that's the truth. I've always eaten meat. I don't know where my meat comes from. When I go hunting and I give the animal a chance and it takes me 4 days to shoot a deer, I know where my meal came from.
Yeah.
I cut it up. I take out its guts. I do it all. I butcher it. That's an intimate experience. And I don't think it's disrespectful to the animal at all. I think it's the opposite. I think that you are hunting with people that love nature, understand animal behavior, and I learned a lot about animal behavior, and I got a profound respect for deer, by the way.
Okay.
They are a wily, smart bunch. So, there are people like Bill Maher, who I like, who has no respect for hunters. I get it, but, he's never been hunting. And I disagree with him.
Yeah, it was...
I'm not going to go hunting the rest of my life. I mean, I don't have to, but we've done it. Men have had to do that.
Right.
It's a very hard thing to do, which is probably why we planted crops. These paleo people, I'm not into that anymore because, meat and veggies, go ahead, live your hunter-gatherer lifestyle, man. I'm eating grains and grasses.
You are?
Yes.
You happy with that?
Yes, I am. Look at all the blue zones, by the way. Everybody who lives forever, give me the blue zones. That place in Sardinia, where they live 110 years, and all that. They all eat.
Grains?
They're not paleo. They're not paleo. They're not paleo people.
They're
all meat eaters. They all drink alcohol. It's a community and a lifestyle.
I ran into some like
I have to
one.
run soon.
Oh, you do?
How
Okay.
long do we have? Yeah, I've got to go. Unfortunately, is that okay?
You got another 10 minutes for me?
Did
Are
you need
on
me?
the edge? I had a couple more questions, but
Go ahead. Give me your questions. I've just got to.
No, I
got to go shoot something in fact.
Just kind of wrap up. I mean, like, just your politics. I mean, like, I find that whenever I express a bit of a conservative attitude, most podcasts and stuff are just very left-leaning. And, like, you always describe yourself as a libertarian, and I was just wondering if you could tell me what that is, and are you comfortable being kind of more of a conservative voice out there when 98%
Yeah, but I
of
hate the
podcasts
word conservative because conservative sounds so restrictive and liberal sounds so libertarian. I just don't think that... I just think history shows that anytime you give a central authority power over you in any context, and there needs to be some central authority, you have to have some government, got to have taxation, you have to have legislation, yes. The question isn't Republican or Democrat. It isn't liberal or conservative. It's how much power do you want to give the governor? And who is governing the governor? That is the central question of political philosophy. How much of your money do you want to give to the federal government? How much? 50%, 60%, 20%? There's a number there, man. And history would suggest that, and I would argue that this country is great because the number is a lot lower in this country, or has been, than in other countries.
Right, as in that percentage.
People are motivated by, a whole slew of different things, but people need to feel like their efforts and their ingenuity and their risk is rewarded. And I just think that government, by its very nature, and like everything, continues to grow. It is a coercive force. It has to be. Taxation, legislation. How much of that do you want in your life? That is the central question. How much do you want? You are not being represented. You don't have a federal government that tracks the will of the people. You want to blame corporations for that? I don't think so. I blame the fact that government's gotten so big that it's such a powerful influence that you can't do business unless you're a corporation. You can't do business unless you concentrate your power and then have a pipeline to Washington. Try staying in business. You can't. Whose fault is that? It's all of our faults. But you better get informed, and you better realize that it seems to me that government continues. There are a lot of people out there that would like an even bigger and broader scope for government and more influence. I don't think that's good. I don't think they're bad people. I just think they're mistaken. I don't think that's good. I live in a world where I'm responsible for myself. It works for me. I want to live in a world where individual responsibility holds the day. That's why I'm in favor of gay marriage. I don't give a shit about gay marriage. I don't think the government should be involved in the marriage business. Who gives a fuck? And I'll tell you something else. I think drugs should be legal. How's that war on drugs going, man? How's that going so far? How much money are we spending? How many body bags in Mexico do we have to go through? How's it going? You really think you can stop that? I don't think so. How about taxing it and zoning it? Or whatever you want to do. But make it legal. Make people responsible for their own choices. You do drugs and get in a car and kill somebody, you go to fucking jail. All right? That's your fault. But give me the responsibility to make my own mistakes. I don't like any central authority stopping me from doing things. It never seems to really work as well as the other way around. You need some laws. Law and order, yeah. You know, you got to have tort reform, whatever. You got to have, you know, taxation. These are important things. You got to have a strong central authority in some aspects of life. But the question is how much.
And so what should people do? Educate themselves and vote? Is it that simple? Or that's not going to make the changes?
I think we need a fundamental restructuring of how government works. And for more on that, there are two books to read: So Damn Much Money and Lawrence Lessig's book, Republic Lost. They're way more articulate about it than I am.
Would you run for office?
No way. I got too many skeletons in my closet, brother.
Do you?
I mean, you know, not really.
They're all on the Rogan show.
They really are. Everybody knows everything. My friends know everything. I don't have any secrets.
They're pretty tame.
They probably are. They probably are. You know, I've not done anything too bad. Not hurt anybody anyway.
But no politics for you? That's a hard game.
I don't think so. I think I wouldn't be very effective. I'm too emotional.
Okay.
I don't think I'm that nuanced, deep a thinker. I mean, a lot of people are. I don't know. I mean, I may be, but you know, I'd rather
be passionate about what we just talked about.
Yeah, I'm passionate. I'll do what I can from this medium. You know, I'm afraid if politics got in the way, I'd get seduced by, you know, the mission, and then end up on the phone 4 hours a day trying to raise money.
Jesus,
it would kill me.
Like the guy in The Wire.
I don't want to lose my soul.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. How do people get in touch with you? Watch your show? All the good stuff.
At Bryan Callen, you can tweet me, or bryancallen.com. That's my website. That's where my podcast is, or Stitcher, or you know, and I guess Facebook too.
Yeah, and 10-minute podcast.
And 10-minute podcast. 10-minute podcast and the Bryan Callen Show.
When you coming to London to perform?
I don't know, but I'll be there soon, I hope.
Let me know. We'll get a whole posse coming, man.
I will for sure, brother.
It'll
Thanks.
be fun.
I'm a fan of your podcast. I appreciate you having me on, man. It's good to meet you in person.
Cool, man. Yeah, it was really good to meet you too. It's nice to see. To see you, and meet you, man.
Yeah,
I mean, I've heard you talk so many different times, but I'm glad we did this. So thanks so much.
Man. I appreciate it, brother.
All right, peace.
You're the man. It's great, man. It's great.
There's this one line that I wrote that was answering hopelessness with a defiant smile and raised middle finger.
Right.
And that's exactly what that was about. It's like, horrendous things happen. I'm gonna find a way to have fun anyway, motherfucker.